Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Trendy with Kim Allison, and it is yours truly, Kim Allison. Whoo, you guys, Miss Jenna Caldwell. Let's jump right in. I am obsessed with her. And I don't say that lightly. She didn't leave one crumb on the plate, you guys. I mean, not one. Her energy, I felt like I got just like an education bomb just dropped in my brain, and I thought, oh my god, I'm so excited to share her knowledge with you guys. This is a part 1 of a part 2 interview because we were just gabbing, we were just chatting, and we went like an hour and a half. So I wanted to split this up because I know y'all got a short attention span. Y'all know who you are. You guys, trust me, it's fire. So Jenna, let me tell you a little bit about her. She just launched a brand new science-based color program called the Colorist Blueprint. And the way she breaks things down, chef's kiss. Chef's kiss. Her origin story is cool. She's cool. Her look is cool. Her hair, her energy, her everything. You guys are going to absolutely love her. I know you will. And you know what, Miss Rambling? That's my new name, by the way. Rambling, because I ramble on and on and on. If you don't let Miss Rambling, slow your ass down for a second. If you don't let Miss Jenna tell her own damn story, but you know what I mean. You guys, you're gonna love it. You'll know what I mean when she speaks. All I can say is prepare to take notes. Get your pens, get your papers, take notes. We end the show, this first part, we were talking about hormones and color in hormones more specifically. So for all of our gray blending, our gray coverage, and our confusion about it, why isn't it covering? Why is it going too dark? Etc., etc. Hormones, levels, all the things, they do play a part in it. And she breaks all of that down. That's how we end, but we're going to pick it back up in part 2 next week. So don't miss it, because the next episode next week, we're going to go even deeper into color. We're going to talk about career growth and how Jenna has just cracked the code on social media. I mean, it could be a social media masterclass in this one little episode. I promise. Now, on to my dumbass. My mic is off again. I mean, how, you ask? Well, I'll tell you how. It just dawned on me. You know, I use StreamYard. It just dawned on me that when I have to pause for various reasons during the episodes, during the interviews, I have to reselect my mic every single time, which StreamYard, I think this is a flaw. I mean, I digress, but I don't know if I should have to do that every single time. And clearly, next time I need to be mindful. So I'm going to start sharing my struggles with this podcast, just so you guys can relate more and you don't think that I'm just an idiot. Behind the scenes and building a show, it is rough, you guys. It is a lot of work, a lot of editing, a lot of conceptualizing, all the things. And I refer to myself in my house as a journalist. And my husband literally hates, I think he hates, but every time, clearly, I didn't go to school for journalism, but, I'm a journalist, low-key, yeah, a little bit, right? I report stuff. Anyway, but he laughs so hard every time, which is why, low-key, I keep doing it, because I like to see him smile. He has the best smile. But you guys, thank you so much for your support. Keep those shares, saves, and views. Keep those shares, saves, and views coming. And this is me trying to talk really fast, and I don't naturally talk fast, so bear with me. Your support means the absolute world, as you know. And now for my interview with Jenna Caldwell, founder of the Colorist Blueprint. Enjoy.
Hey guys, my name is Jenna Caldwell. I am a fourth generation cosmetologist, an international hair color educator, and I am so excited to be talking to you today here on Trendy with Kim Allison.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Trendy with Kim Allison. And today's guest is blending blondes and breaking down the science behind great hair color. Based in Austin, Texas, she's a master stylist and educator who just launched her own education platform, the Colorist Blueprint. She teaches
Woo!
stylists how to truly understand the science of hair color. Welcome to the show, Jenna Caldwell. Are you ready to get inspired, everybody? I know I am.
Woo! I'm so excited to be here. First off, thank you for inviting me. I get so excited anytime somebody offers me an opportunity to talk about the science of hair color because I'm just such a nerd about it. So I'm excited to be here. Thank you.
I am excited to have you on the show, and I see this trend happening where we are actually, I think, breaking that fourth wall and going beyond the smoke and mirrors that people can sometimes curate on their educational post.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
The real understanding of color, because we
Yes.
see the end result and it's beautiful,
Yeah.
right? But we see the formula sometimes, but we
Sometimes.
don't necessarily understand how we got there. I don't think
Yeah.
people truly understand that. So I am happy to hear that you are new to the scene, and I wish you all the success, and I know it's going to be great. So
Thank you.
let's take it back before we
Okay.
get into that, though. Where
Okay.
did you grow up and how
Okay.
did hair find you? And that is one of my favorite, that's what I say all the time. I don't think we find hair, I think hair finds
Yeah.
us.
I was born into it. So from day one, I am the fourth generation of cosmetologists in my family that we know of. We lost a lot of our family history in World War II when my great great grandfather migrated over here from Palermo, Italy. And so there could be hundreds of years of hairstylists behind us, but we lost all of it when they came over from World War II. Um,
Wait, that's amazing.
yeah,
That's a first.
I've I have been doing such a deep dive. I had a little eat, pray, love thing planned out to go to Palermo because my family's Catholic. So they said in World War II they had a very kind of like strict understanding that they don't bomb churches. And so if you go to your if I could find that church, it could actually have books that have our family's lineage of attending that church and what they did for a living. And my plan was to go over and do that. And then COVID hit, and Italy was the first place. Like it was China and then Italy before it came to the US. And I was going that summer of 2020. So I still haven't made the journey yet. But my great grandfather owned a chain of barbershops and cosmetology schools in Washington, D.C. Back in the 70s. And then before that, in the 50s, my great grandfather had a salon in the town that I'm from in Pennsylvania. It's a very small town, but I love that I was able to find these newspaper clippings. He used to take out a section in the Sunday newspaper and he called it Speaking of Beauty. And he would just talk about his thoughts on what was going on in the world and the trends, which is kind of like our modern day vlog or Instagram.
That's
So
kind of what I'm doing.
yes, I love it so much. I found all this. I became a member of the newspaper archive so that I could go back and find all of these. And I have so many clippings from back in the day. And he would talk about, back when they called perms permanents and,
Yes.
the different styles and when they discovered bigger sized rods and all sorts of things. And so he would talk about that and educate people back in the day on those kind of things. And so, I feel like my grandfather ended up selling everything and moving back to Pennsylvania. And my mother did hair for probably 2 or 3 years out of high school. And then she quit because she didn't like it. Um, she's not a very artistic person. She doesn't really, she's not a
She didn't get the
painter,
gene. She didn't get the
right? It really,
strong side of that gene.
it's very, very true. And so she owned a salon for a few years, but then she was like, this isn't for me. And she went back to college. So she actually ended up trying to talk me out of doing hair because she was like, you're not going to like this. You're going to be on your feet all day, every day. It's actually a really hard job. People can be mean to you. And I had gotten a scholarship to go to college in a science based field. So I actually went to St. Bonaventure University on a scholarship for biochemistry. And so,
That's a great school.
yeah. And so I didn't want to go in the first. I've known I wanted to do hair since I was 5 years old. And I ended up going just to please my mother. And I made it through my first year, but I also have ADHD. So sitting in classes does not work for me. I would sit there and I would just fidget constantly and I would just, and I was like, I can't do this. Mom, I want to be a hairstylist. And she was so mad at me. She would not speak to me. We got into the biggest fight about it. She was like, you're throwing your life and your career away. You could have been a doctor. But I'm like, Mom, I have ADHD. There's no way I'm going to go be a surgeon or stand somewhere in a 60-degree operating room when I am the fidgetiest person ever. I can't do that.
100%.
Right. So I moved. So I went back to Pennsylvania. I packed up all my stuff and I drove to Williston, North Dakota because of the oil boom. So this is back in about like 2009. So I show up in Williston, North Dakota because I hear that girls who are serving and bartending could make like $500 to $800 a night. And they weren't lying about that, by the way. Um,
Interesting.
yeah, so I saved up a ton of money, got back in my car after 9 months, and I drove to LA because I thought I wanted to be this hairstylist to the stars. And so I showed up and I ended up going to a school called Marinello School of Beauty, which is no longer in existence. Um, but yeah, I was able to go to school right there. I ended up going in Orange County and not up in LA because even with saving up, I couldn't afford to live in LA. So I went down
Yeah.
to Orange County.
Yeah.
Um, but then after I finished school, I just kind of had this I there was no kinship to California. I'm not a big who you know, who you hang out with, spend $1,000 for a bottle of vodka on the weekends at a club just because some famous person is there. It wasn't me and it wasn't my vibe. And so I knew that halfway through school. So I was constantly looking at editorial things. I love to compete in the editorial competitions like Naha and Behind the Chair. And I remember in 2013, the global style director of Aveda had won the North American Hairstyling Awards, and that was down here in Austin. And so I was done with school. I was trying to mend this relationship with my mother, and I was like, I'll drive back to Pennsylvania, but it's a 3-day drive, and it was only 2 hours out of the way to stop in Austin. And I mean, I pulled into the city, and I had one of those core moments where, like, I'm getting goosebumps even just thinking
Oh,
about
I know. I'm like,
it.
this is cool.
I drive over this bridge and I just see the city, and I just knew in my bones that this was home. This was home. And so I walk into this salon. It's in the top 200 salons. It has been for 10 years. I walked inside. I'd never seen anything as beautiful as this. And they gave me the tour. And I told the manager, I'm like, you need to hire me. Because if you don't hire me, I'm going to call you every day until you hire me. So just do me a favor and hire me.
The squeaky wheel gets the oil.
Right? And so it worked, but I'm an Aries, so I've always been
So
so
am I.
yeah, so we ask for what we want. I'm gonna tell you,
When is your birthday?
April Fool's Day.
Really?
Yes,
So you're April 1st. I'm April
April 1st.
18th.
You are? Oh my gosh. I love that. It's our season right now. Do you feel like you came alive in the last couple days?
I'm always alive, I feel. I
Yeah.
feel like my brain never shuts off.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. Energy changes though, doesn't
Yes.
it? And that little kick, that little
Ah,
push you get.
yes. I don't know. I woke up 2, 3 days ago and I just felt so good. And I was like, oh, it's time to get back outside and start running again. I kind of, I'm a little hermit during the winter months. And so I'm like getting back outside. I'm on the trail. I even got in the water, and oh my gosh, I feel like our season truly is the beginning of the year for me. I don't know if maybe
That
that's the way my
is,
body works.
I love that energy.
Once I told them, hire me. If you don't hire me, I'm going to call you every day until you do.
Mhm.
And it worked. I got the job. So I came to Austin. I moved here and I've been here ever since. I worked in that salon for 4.5 years. And my mother was diagnosed with early onset Alzheimer's. And
Oh,
yeah, she was only 54.
wow,
Yeah.
really? Oh,
Yeah.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah.
And
And
how long ago are we talking that you landed in Austin?
13 years ago.
Okay, it's been 13 years now.
Mhm.
Okay,
Yeah. So my
okay.
mother has been ill now for, or maybe she was diagnosed at 53 because she's about to turn 61 and she's completely nonverbal now. She's at the very last stage. And
And
so
are you the only child?
I am not. I have an older sister who lives there in town.
Okay, good. Okay.
Um,
At
Thank
least
you
you
for
have
checking on that. That's the sweetest thing that you're like, "Is there someone there for them?"
yeah, no,
Yeah.
not that you're not there,
Yes.
but I
I
was curious early on when you were talking about your family, your lineage of hairdressers.
Yeah.
I just thought I wondered then if there were any other hairdressers, if you had any other siblings that caught the bug.
No, it's just me. Out of
Okay.
my mom is one of 8,
Oh,
and
wow.
it was just her, and it's just me, but each kid had at least 2 kids. So I have a ton of first cousins, but I'm the only hairstylist down the lineage. So,
Interesting.
yeah.
Okay. Well, you're the
Yeah.
chosen one, I say. You're the lucky one.
Exactly, right? And so I truly love it the way my great grandfather did, the one who took articles out in the newspaper, and I just fell in love with it the second that I got here to Austin and I was able to work for this salon. It was great because this person was the global style director of Aveda. I had access to every class I could possibly get because it was free for us. And he was always teaching, and they were always like switching out. So a bunch of people would come here, he would go all over the place. And then we had master educators. We had a whole training center down the street from where the salon was on 5th and Lamar. Like that right down the road, there was a massive training center. So every Monday, you actually had to go in there and take anywhere from 4 to 6 to 8 clients in the
Wow.
training center, and you had to pass out of these modules to get a raise each time. And so you start with your blow drying, and then when you get past that you can do like the basic root touch ups, and then when you pass out of that you can do highlights. And so in the 4.5 years that I worked there, I took a class almost like every month. So I would say on top of like the intense training, I had taken over 100 classes, and I was
Oh
able to
my
take
gosh,
them.
don't you love that about our old school upbringing that we
Yes.
actually had to, I think, I'm not, not to discount today's education.
Yeah.
I don't even know. Like I've
Yes.
taken a class of
Yes.
today,
Yes.
starting as a beginner. I haven't. So I really
Yeah.
don't have a reference point, but I just feel like we had more to there were more hurdles before we were just handed the keys to the kingdom. Like
Yes.
we had to master, literally master
Yes.
each skill set
Yes.
before we were worthy of a title or advancement.
Oh, it's so true. And if you were booked for like a 45-minute partial highlight, to pass out of that module, you needed to be able to do it in 25. And so, I mean, they were so strict about, and it wasn't just like, "Oh, you hit it one time, you're good." You had to consistently hit that and book yourself like 4 to 6 of them on a Monday, and once you finally hit your times and ran on time the entire day, it took some people at this salon 3 years to finally get onto the floor as a full-time stylist.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I remember those days of
yeah.
paying your dues.
Yes. And I remember when I got into the program, I was so excited and I wanted to hit my time. So I would actually create drills for myself, and I would put my mannequin head like on its lowest, the stand on its lowest setting. And I would sit there and watch TV, and I would foil those back two quadrants, and I would set myself timers to be able to do them in under 8 minutes. And by the time I got onto the floor, I was actually one of the fastest foilers in the salon. So in
Do
under
you
3
hear
years,
that, next generation of hair? That
what,
is such a great pro
yeah,
tip, such great advice for someone who's slow, like
yes,
myself. I'm going to take you up on that one.
yes. Well, and that's what a lot of the colorist blueprint is, and that's why I designed it. It's interesting that you were talking about this modern day way of teaching, because I've noticed, especially with my classes, so I became the national director for the United States of hair color for Balmain last year. And after a few months, we both kind of mutually realized it just wasn't a fit. But they were charging, 450, $550 for tickets to classes. And it just kind of made me realize that it's almost a sort of, um, I don't know what the word is here, but like elitism, right? When
Oh,
you're
what?
charging so much money, and some of these like famous Instagram, educators are charging 750, $1,000 for one day with them in these classes. And so what that does is it just says like the six-figure hairstylist just keeps it advancing, and the younger stylists don't get those opportunities. They don't get to be
No,
in those
I totally get that, and that is what I want to dive into later on in the show. And
yeah,
so hold that thought,
yeah,
because you're 100% right. And I want to get into, once we're done with your origin story,
yeah,
I want to get all into your education and how we feel
yeah.
about social media. We definitely in this interview are going to go there.
Hey, yeah, let's do it. I'm ready.
But before we jump to, the ultimate success, which
Yeah,
is to start your own platform, what was it about blonding or color that really stuck with you specifically? Because
yeah,
you model yourself a blonding specialist.
yes,
So it sounds like color is what you gravitated toward. Although I know that just because we call ourselves a specialist at something, it
yeah.
doesn't negate every other skill set.
That's
You know,
very
I think
true.
people get that confused. Like, it doesn't mean you don't
Yeah,
know how to cut hair, doesn't mean you don't
yeah,
do think else, right? But what about, through your family lineage of just what led you to hair in the first place, and
yeah,
all your stop in Austin, finding that salon you found and being
yeah.
so driven and intentional. What was it, your scientific background, do you think, that made you naturally just gravitate toward color?
Um, no, I don't think it was just that. It was a piece of it. I do love the chemistry of hair color deeply. That's what I've kind of based my whole platform on Instagram
Yeah.
over. But, from the time I was a little kid, like, I grew up, my parents were teen parents, so I didn't grow up with a lot, and I was hustling from the time I was, like, 9 years old. The first time I made money doing hair, I was 9. I drug a table into the middle of the mall, and I just told people I was doing those hair wraps. You remember, like, when we would take the string and put the wraps in our
Yes.
hair? Well, I remember, my family lost me at Disney World because we were in Epcot, and I saw these women, I think it was in Jamaica,
Yep.
of Epcot, and they were like, "Where's Jenna?" And I saw them doing this, and I ran over, and I was just standing there staring at these women, like, and I just kept getting closer and closer to who was doing it, and they were like, "Whose small child is this?"
Yes. Are you lost?
Like, somebody come get this cat. And I just was staring. I was enamored by what she was doing. I'd never seen anything like it. And so I came home and I was like, Mom, I'm going to do that. So I just pulled up with my little, caboodle of all my colors of string. And I made my friend Kristen do it with me, but she was too slow. I realized I was a hustler from a young age. I was like, oh, the faster I can get these done, because I charge $5 a piece for them. I was like, the more money I could make in a day.
That is hilarious. So funny that you were making money at
Right.
9. Like, we didn't know
Yeah.
nothing about child labor laws or nothing like
Oh,
that.
no, no, they didn't even care. They were like, "Look at this cute little kid. Here's some money." I was working a 9 to 5 in the mall during the summer. No, it was
Oh,
only for
get
a
your
couple
hustle
days.
on, because that shaped you to
Yeah,
be who you are today. I am sure of
yeah.
that.
So I kept going back to the mall with other things. And so my aunt owns a company that makes cupboard panels for kitchen.
Okay.
And so if they had any type of dent or any kind of like hole in the wood, like anything that made them not attractive, she would just give them to me. So I started painting like the live, laugh, love, like the Andersons live here, let it snow with a snowman on it. So when I got to Austin and this salon hired me, it was specialized like you did.
Yeah.
And so they said, do you want to do cut or do you want to do color? And immediately I was like, color. I've always loved holding a brush, a paintbrush in my hand. I feel like I have this interesting left brain and right brain where I'm chemistry, but I'm also creative. And I think that's one thing that makes hairstylists so special is people don't realize how hard our job is, but we have to be so multifaceted to have success in this industry. And so it was no question for me to do color because I've been painting since I was a little kid. And so when, balayage came on the scene and it was like, "Oh, I can paint." I was
Yeah.
naturally very good at it, and it came very easy to me.
And
And
you remind us, what year did you, come into hairdressing?
2012.
2012. Okay.
Mhm.
Got
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Nice. So when you went to Austin, you were just starting,
Oh,
period. You had
yeah. I
just got
didn't.
out of school.
Yep, just right out of school. And yeah, I specialized right from school, which was great, but also to my own detriment. Like you were saying, about doing other things, I actually don't really know how to cut hair very good because I never really had to learn.
Yeah, you got caught in that. Yeah, I had
Yeah.
to, as you saw my story, I
Yeah.
had to learn color 5
Yeah.
years ago
Yeah.
because
It's
my
crazy.
colorists, we came from that culture of
Yep.
departmentalized. I was
Yeah.
a colorer for all those years, and she was a colorist,
Yep.
and we worked together.
It's
So,
interesting because I just lost my business partner last year, and we had been paired that way. She is a cutting specialist for 20 years. And so when she left, a lot of my clients didn't want to follow her to the salon she was going to. And so they were like, "Well, are you ever going to learn how to cut hair?"
right, right.
And I was like, "You know what? Damn it. Yeah, I
Did
am." And
you?
so, yeah,
Did you?
I am right now.
Okay.
I know, right? It's never too late to reinvent yourself. And I really love that we're kind of getting into this, like you said earlier, I don't want to be put in one box where I'm just this. I'm a specialized of this and only this, which is why I also, love to teach. And now, because I understand hair, I understand how it falls and how it works. I think
Yep.
it's much easier for me to pick up cutting after doing
Well,
color.
and it takes an old career and makes it new.
It really does, and so I'm learning all of these new interesting things, and it's actually making me fall in love with our career all over again, so it's
Oh, I
yeah.
love that so much. What do you think one myth about blonding is that you wish would disappear?
Oh, a myth about blonding. Um, I hate that people think that blonding has to equal breakage.
Got you.
So many people will come into the salon, and this is the first time they met me, and they're like, "I know that, if I wanna be really bright, I'm gonna have this breakage right here around my hairline," and I was like, "Who told you that?"
Right.
Who told? And a lot of these stylists will, just grab lightener with 20 volume developer and foil a whole head of hair with it. Where if you watch me foil in my salon, I start with a demi developer, then I move up to 10 volume, then I move to 20 volume, then I drop back down. If they're a level 7 or above, you're getting demi with lightener around your hairline because the hairline is a completely different structure of hair than the rest of the hair, and it needs to be treated that way.
Now,
And
is Demi developer?
yeah, like 1.5%.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I know, like six volume, 5 volume.
Mhm. Yes.
Um,
Yeah.
Sometimes it's even 13 though.
Yeah, I mean, it can vary.
I guess my question is, with
Sure.
developer, do they actually put something or formulate it differently? Or is it just developer?
So it's a different concentration of the peroxide. the hydrogen peroxide inside the developer. So
I
how
know
do
that sounds like a stupid question, but
it doesn't?
when you're new to color, like for
Yeah,
people who are new, people assume that you understand all of that, right?
right? Yes,
And you don't, because you go to purchase color and you have developers paired with the actual box or tube of color,
yes,
you know, whether it's demi or whether it's permanent. um you know, 13 volume is 13 volume, and can't
yes,
you, but yet it's paired with vibrance if it's Schwarzkopf,
yes.
right? And so you could also though use that 13 volume with permanent. So it's just a matter of how much hydrogen peroxide is in the bottle, is what you're saying.
Yes. So essentially how developers work, your 5, 10, 15, 20 volume or 13 volume as you were saying, whatever that is, the percentage is the concentration of hydrogen peroxide inside the bottle. So when you take a tube of color and you put it in the bowl and you mix it with that developer, the developer is what develops the color. That's why the color is clear or white. When you put it in, you just put like the
Yeah,
clear creamy liquid, and then the developer, the percentage of that hydrogen peroxide, whether it be 1.5%, 3%, 6%, it's going to dump at different rates. So
got you.
the ammonia in the tube of color mixes with the developer, and that ammonia immediately starts raising the alkalinity of that solution. Once it hits about a pH of 10, that's when those peroxides start dumping. The percentage in the bottle is the aggression that they are going to dump, the faster things are going to work. That's why 40 volume with bleach is going to just be so aggressive, but it's also going to pewter off and die a lot quicker. And that's kind of its own protection mechanism. So if you
So is
use,
that the difference with the actual pigmented color, is the dye load and the amount of ammonia? Is that what makes permanent and demi?
so it's a combination of the two. So it depends on how much alkalinity is in the tube of color.
Yeah.
So if it's very low or it's a low volume developer, it's not going to push it as far into the cortex of the hair where it needs to start attaching to those DNA chains and forever altering them. That's why it's called permanent hair color. Demi permanent, we're not using as hard of it's not as strong, right? So when
Right.
we lift that cuticle, Demi sometimes can only take it about halfway in, right? That's
See.
why it's called demi-permanent, but the word permanent's still in there. It can still have a line of demarcation or be forever altered, but 40 volume is going to push it the whole way in. So it's actually a carrier mechanism for that hair color. And once it gets inside there, then that's when they mix together and that alkalinity raises, it can go into the hair color, and then these couplers and these primary intermediates, they start waking up. And when they start attaching to each other, that's when the color starts showing, exposing, developing. And that's how you see it go from white to then it turns like whether it's purple or orange or brown, and it gets darker and darker. That's it oxidizing in the air. It's called an oxidative reduction reaction.
Interesting. Okay, you are definitely
Sorry, that was
qualified.
a lot.
No, that's a thank you is all I have to say, because it's something that you can digest and
Yes,
actually process and make sense of,
yeah,
because understanding the why makes the how so much easier.
it really does. That's why I harp on the science behind it, because there is so much misinformation out there where somebody takes a class and then it feels like a game of telephone. They come home and they get on the internet and they'll say, there actually is no color in hair color. Color is clear and then it does this. And you guys don't, and the way that people fight with me on my social media saying what I'm saying isn't true, without ever fact checking anything or ever taking a second to.
Literally was reading that comment just the other day of
Yeah,
someone challenging your information, and I'm
yeah,
like, Oh my God. And your followers defended you. So that was amazing too. That's what I love. And this is a perfect segue into asking you what inspired you to study the science of hair color instead of sticking to traditional techniques. So this is exactly what you've just been talking about.
Yeah. So having that background, loving to create a hypothesis and then test it over and over again and see how certain things happen. I've loved that my whole life. My mother used to get so frustrated because I was a why kid. But why? Why is the sky blue? Why is the grass go? Why? And she would just get so frustrated and she would be like, because why is a crooked letter and you can't make it straight, Jenna? Okay. Because like they were like, enough of the questions. And so um I had realized very early on that I was an inquisitive child, and I always have been. I still am now. I'm just a forever learner. And so I had all these questions, and I was like, but how does hair color work? I know that we mix this with this and we're supposed to do this, but how and why? So then I got on LinkedIn and I started connecting with cosmetic chemists. And I was like, hey, can I send you emails and ask you questions? And then they would send me research papers. And I'm so lucky to have gone to school for biochemistry so that I could actually read scientific literature. And I'm like, oh my goodness, like these molecules are different sizes, they do different things. And this coupling happens immediately. Why aren't people talking about this? Like, if you are going to make cowboy copper and you're going to put 6G and 6C and squeeze it into a bowl, you need to mix that together first before you put your developer in there, because they're going to start coupling, but they're not going to couple together to make.
I wondered about that. You
Yes.
know, when you're mixing colors and then you just pour the developer on top of it, there's no way. It's like cooking.
Yes,
You know,
exactly.
sometimes you have to mix it first and then start adding your liquids.
Thank you so much. That is a perfect analogy for that. If you're going to make banana bread, you're not going to put like cinnamon, salt, flour, and then, not mix it together and add your eggs and milk. You're going to whisk that so it's evenly distributed before you put something that's going to activate that together. I love that you just did that because that's a great analogy for that.
Yeah, yeah, it definitely does make sense. And we get into the crux of, staying on schedule. You have your own schedule, you have your client's schedule as they're
Yeah.
asking for $1 million service,
Yeah.
$20, 5 hour service. Can you get this done in an hour and a half? You're like,
Yeah.
oh, and so people kind of, you know, especially if you're new to the industry, that can be
Yeah.
confusing
Yeah.
because you're like, I want to keep up, I want to build a clientele, I have
Yeah.
to pay my bills,
Yeah.
right? But I see all of these trends on the social media and just in the world, and my
Yeah.
clients are bringing me these inspo pics. I think I can do it.
Yeah.
Let me go watch a TikTok real quick. Yeah. So I have a formula now
Yeah.
because your hair is brown, and I know if I mix this, or brown, your hair is a level 5. So
Yeah.
I know if I mix this, and this, I'm gonna get an ash blonde. Yeah, maybe, but do you know why you're doing it?
Yeah.
Or
I think that every time, yeah, I teach something like this, I get those light bulb moments from people where I see them like make it click and they're like, "Oh, that's why you can't that's why, like there's a reason why, just like with the lightning around the hair, you ever put, a level 6 on somebody and it looks like a level 4 right here on their hairline. And you're like, why did that happen? That's because there's a science. Our bodies are really good at creating barriers. So we have a completely different structure of hair, these first 2 centimeters of our hairline. And so we have a really large cuticle, an extremely small cortex right around our hairline. So it's not that the hair color is different, it's that all that hair color is trying to pack itself into a tiny, tiny little space because the cuticle's clear. The cuticle's a window, right? So on a normal strand of hair, you would have your cuticle and then the cortex is like this, and it's only about 10 layers on the
right.
outside of it, right? Around the front of your hairline, it can be triple that. So it's the same amount of color, it's just going into a smaller space. And so it looks much darker. It's much more opaque because it's just like, wait, where do we go? Where do we go? We're all packed in here. So when you know the science of how that works, you can say to yourself, oh, hey, I'm going to mix a level lighter and just tap her hairline with a level 7 instead so that everything looks more cohesive. But if you don't know the
Ooh.
science, and when people ask you that question, or, I've had clients come in before and they say, I've gone to 3 different people, but for some reason, like my hairline is always jet black and the rest of my hair is a different color. And I always ask them, one, do you do hot yoga? Did you go to the gym? How often are you working out versus washing your hair? Because if she worked out yesterday and there's salt in her hair, think of the chemistry. Salt is alkaline. So if she's got alkaline already in her hair and you go to mix up that color and put it on, it's going to go poof immediately because there's already an alkalizing agent there. Our job is a lot harder than people give us credit for. Yes. And
And
so,
that we have to ask more questions, and that's what people don't wanna do because that's more work.
yeah.
Yeah,
So
get
in the colors,
lazy. Yeah,
yeah, I have an entire section inside the Colorist Blueprint of
yeah.
my consultation form and a 20-minute walkthrough of why I ask the questions that I ask, because I am flabbergasted when a woman comes in and sits down in my chair and she's 52 years old and I'm the first person who's ever asked her if she takes heart or thyroid medicine. And she's like,
Interesting.
why does that matter? Well, I mean, it's astronomical. Your T3, T4, and TSH hormones actually regulate your hair and the amount of nutrients it's going to get. So your thyroid is like the general manager of your body, right? And
Yes,
if
absolutely.
if things are going wrong or our hormones are imbalanced, what's the first thing it's going to let go of? The thing it has to work really hard on, but doesn't give us a good payoff, right? It's important to keep these organs running for us to live. It's not important for us to keep growing good, healthy hair because we're not hominids anymore. We have warm environments. We can put hats on that we've made. Like we're not cavemen thinking hair needs to keep us insulated and alive. So your thyroid's just going to get that right out of there.
Oh,
And if
well, this
somebody
57-year-old over here is experiencing that as we speak.
Oh, I'm so sorry to hear that. I
I
hate
know,
that.
I'm like, my hair just died.